So hello there. Hello. So the next thing we're going to look at is the program control flow, right? So if you've not been wondering, it's fine. But if you've been wondering, when I write this code, so where does Python start running the code from? Does it start from the top or does it start from the bottom? Where does it start from? That we do not know. So that is what we're going to look to. So when you start running your Python, when you run any Python file, obviously Python start from the top. So it will run this line, then it come around this line, to come around this line. This one thing. Come around also this guy, run. There's a comment with the hash sign in front of it, so it will skip it. Run this guy, run. So it will run it line by line from the top to the down, right? Good. So that's why when I run this code, in the end, what is going to print? Oh, no. So we are not running code like that again. So cd week 1. So from now we are using the terminal, right? So you have to start getting familiar with it. And then we say Python 3. But if you're using Windows, you just say Python and then the name of the file I want to run. So I have variable. And then you can press tab key and it will find the rest for you. Right. So that's what we've been doing now. So we create another file called control, and I come to discuss another thing. In which order does Python write your code? No, it's not supposed to be run your code, right? In which order does Python run your code? And how do you make decisions in your code, right? So if you remember, in the intro.py, I see here and made some decisions. I said, oh, please enter your mark, and if m is greater than this. So this is a decision. You are telling, okay, if this is happening, then do this. If this, then do that. That's a decision. You are making a decision. And then how do you repeat your code in a loop? So we'll come to that. And then how do you take input with your code, and then more operations with variables, right? So we're going to start with in the previous one, we're going to continue from here. In which order? We've already talked about the order it runs from top to down. So that's why when we run this guy, so when I write Python 3 and I run intro, right? You see, it asks me what's the grade, and I enter 3 and say your grade is E. Of course, I've not added F or anything there. So that's the code runs from top to down, and then making decisions in your code. So that's the next thing we're going to look at. And this making decision thing is related to this Boolean thing, right? So because before we do that, let me introduce something to you. So we've seen the print guy, right? And it will, when you do print, it will print anything, show anything here, right? And I run this guy, control. Oh, I did it capital C. Let me change it to small c. Not like. You know that you can't do it capital C, but I just prefer doing it this way. You see? So you just print show anything here. So there's another guy called another thing called type, right? So let me show you what I mean by that. Say type, right? So if you remember these variables aspect, okay, so let's create a Boolean variable. So b Boolean variable. And how do we know that is a Boolean variable? It's either true or false. So if I say type of bv, what is going to happen? And let me run it. Oh, sorry, I need to print it. So print type of the Boolean variable. Print type of bv. Right? I said class bool. So this is a Boolean. if I change BV, if I put it in string, you see, even though it's false, but it's no longer a Boolean variable. Around this, it's a class str string, right? Because anything that you put into the quotation mark is a string, right? If I change this to 2, it will tell me class int, it is an integer. If I change this to 2.3, it will tell me class float. This is a floating number, right? So this is what we've done previously. And then the type guy, this type function. So there's a function, we'll come to it. As you know, in mathematics, or in mathematics, we know in mathematics, you know that we have a function. If you have a function f of x, right, is equal to what? Something 2x plus 1. So when we say f of 1, the answer will be what? Anywhere you see x, you can put this thing there, so 3. Right? So in programming languages, we have functions, and we will do functions later, but this one we just need to use them now for something. So the print that we've been using up to now is a function, and it's saying that, look, anything that you pass into my parentheses, I'm going to print it onto the screen. And for the type function, is saying that anything that you pass into my parentheses, I'm going to, so let me just separate this from here so that it's very clear. And just call this t. I'm going to tell you what type it is, right? So when I run this, say class float. So this type function, what it does is that what this type function does is that it will take the variable and it will ask, oh, what kind of variable is this, right? And then it will give you the answer. So if I put this in quotation marks again, what do you think it will be? Of course, it is going to be a string. Now I need to say this because I'm now using the terminal. You need to make sure that you are in the folder in which your file is in before you can do this, right? We'll do more of this later, and I'll take my time to take you through because I think I've decided that it's better we start using terminal now, because in the future I'm still going to use terminal. So it's better I start getting used to it this week, so you can ask all your questions and everything about the terminal. So I remember showing you something, website called python.org. Now you see you have something called documentation. So documentation tells you how Python works. So if you click on docs, you can go there. Python docs, yeah. You can go here, and then if you come and click here, you can start to look into Python. Although this documentation is not really simple or straightforward to go through, it's still kind of cool that you know about it, every now and then. So if I'm going to built-in functions, you see that this print thing that we have here, right? Is then you say, oh, print object to the text stream file. This it will be kind of difficult to understand, but basically you are printing something to the screen or printing something to somewhere, but that's not important now. The important part is you are just printing something to the screen, right? So if you don't understand anything, you can Google or you can ask, on the Slack channel or on our WhatsApp group, and then we'll answer you directly. That's how I want this to be. I want this to be communicative. So you ask and I answer, and you ask and I answer, or I point you to an answer or something. That's better. So I'm leaving certain things out so that when you look at it now, you know that this thing doesn't make sense. Let me ask a question. So the more you ask questions, the better for all of us, and then we'll all be happy. So well. So let's come to our Boolean, back to our Boolean stuff. If I say false, and I run this, you're going to say it's a bool, right? So so as a boolean is either true or it's false. Okay, and so it's time to introduce you to something we call the if statement. You know, it said making decisions in your code. And if you remember in the intro.py, I used some if statement, if else stuff here, right? So what am I saying here? So if statement is just saying that, okay, if something, right? So you put your variable name here or something there. So if bv, we just can be anything, then we print variable is true. Else, elif means that else if. Let's not do that, right? Variable is false. Good. So you realize that when I run this guy, I get variable is false because we are saying if bv. Now this if statement here is saying that to create an if statement or to make a decision in Python, you just write if and then you type whatever statement you want here. So it can be anything. In this case, you are just putting a variable there. I will get into this, we'll get into more. For instance, when you see here, we said if m is greater than or equal to 80, you see, we are not just putting a variable, we are comparing something, right? So that's what we are come to do right now. So if bv, so basically what is happening here is that if the whatever we put here is true, it will execute what is here, and if whatever we put here turns out to be false, it will execute whatever is here, or it will run whatever is here. So let me just clarify it. So you see that we set this bv to false, right? So since bv is false, when we run, it will say control py is false. Now if I change this bv to true and I run, the variable is what? True. So that's controlled flow, right? But that's not just what we can do. So we can combine true, false, and all of that with other operations. Remember, with the numbers, we could add two numbers and all of that. So with booleans, we can do that. So for instance, we can use something called a logic. So if you're familiar with logic, true or false. If I say true or false, what comes out of true or false? Well, let's see. So let me comment this one out. So to do this, you just select whatever all the things and then you press control / and to comment everything out. So let me say print bv, right? Let's just do that. Let me clear this guy. So if I run, you see it's true, because true or false is true. And then bv2, if I say true or true, true or true is also true, right? So let me say C1 true, sorry, false or false. All right, so I've taken my time with this thing because these are basic stuff like you need to understand. And false or false will be false. Okay, in the same way, true, false or true is still true, right? So let me say D1. Now we have certain operations. We have or and then we have and. So let me say true and false. What do you think this will be? It's false, right? True and false. See, true and false. So is false. If something cannot be both true and false at the same time. So this is what we call the Boolean logic. Okay. Mm. Oh, let me see. Programming Boolean logic table. Now it's even better, right? So truth tables. Okay. Mm. Mm, mm, Oh, this is too. This is bazaar. Let's see. We'll find a better looking truth table. Good. So if you go to Wikipedia, you find it. So I'll add this link here. I'll link this one here. So to be there, you can go and see. Okay. Yeah. So Wikipedia truth table. Mm. So the end. So this caret sign is end. So if it's a true and true, see, it's true. True and false is false and true. So if you're not familiar with these things, you can just come and look here. Right, this is the place you're looking for. Okay, and then or. So true or true is true. True or false is true. False or true. True, false or false is false. Right, and then we also have negation. So let me say n1. So in Python, to negate, you can say not true. So if I say something is not true, what is it? Well, let's find out. Then it's false. Don't leave me. Anyway, so and then if I say, let me say n2, something is not false, then what is it? It's true, right? So now we can combine these things, but don't let these things get into your head. Combined. So true or false and not false. So that will give us what? Go and think about it. It's true. Oh, don't leave me. Anyway, so that's it for Boolean, the Boolean logic part that we had to do in the variables aspect. So now let me come back to my if statement, right? So basically the if statement is saying if whatever I put here is true, then it will come to this first part, else it will come here, right? So for instance, if I put this guy here, we already know that combined is true, and I run it, it will run true. Variable is true, right? Good. So let me comment this one out. So this in itself is not just only these things are not really important, or not really useful. Let me just comment everything out. But how we use them is what makes all the difference, right? So again, let's say v, right? So I'm creating a variable called v. Now we have something called comparison operators, right? And that's what you see that I've used it here, right? So it allows us to compare two things. So for instance, I can say I can compare two numbers, or I can even compare two strings, right? Right. So if I say 2 is greater than 3, yes, that's a 10. It means what you're seeing. Is it true? Well, let's see. It is true. I'm now changing this. It is true. And then it is false. Note that equally just do this and then come and replace whatever is here with this, right? But I'm just using the variable because it's much neater. So it is false. 2 is greater than 3. This is what it's saying. 2 is greater than 3. No, 2 is not greater than 3. So if I change this to 4 and I run again, it is true that 4 is indeed greater than 3. If I change this to 3 and I run again, see, it is false because 3 cannot be greater than 3. But we know that 3 is equal to 3. Now to say equal to, you don't use one single equal to, you use double equal to. So this is comparing. This is what we call comparison operator, and this is what we call assignment. 1 equal to is called assignment operator, and double equal to is called comparison operator, right? So if I say, oh, if I run this again, let me save it. I run it again. So always remember to save before you run. It is true because 3 is equal to 3, right? So again, these are just stuff that you already know, right? So of course, less than, so you can do this, right? And 3 is less than 5, and you see that, yeah, indeed it's true. And you can do less than or equal to, right? And you see that 3 is true. If I do 3 is less than or equal to 3, what do you think I'll get? True, of course, it has to be true because 3 is less than or equal to 3. Even if it's not equal to it, if it's not less than it, it is equal to it. So less than or equal to, right? So that's the logic part of programming. A lot of logic. So I like using this this example, grading example, a lot because it's kind of easier to follow through and all of that, right? Good. But let's use this, in this case, let's use this example. So let's say that your name is Kofi, huh? Yeah, called Kofi, and then maybe you have a balance of, you are going to the ATM machine to take cash, and you have a balance of 300, 0.9 Ghana CD, right? There's a 300.9. You have money. Oh no, make it 3,000, and then you want to withdraw how much? Say 900 Ghana cedi or 909, and then all right. So what are we going to do? Okay, we want to withdraw some amounts that we don't know, right? So we are going to ask you, please, you say, hey, we are going to display a certain message to you first. Message, hello, name, and a plus, please enter how much to withdraw, right? So this input function, what this input function does is that it will stop the program and it will ask the user to do something, right? So the user, once the user enters something, and then it will continue. So for instance, let me run this. See, to stop the program and say, hello Kofi, please enter how much you to withdraw, how much you want to withdraw, right? How much you want to withdraw? So if so it would be there until you enter something before it stops, right? So it just goes, right? Now when the person enters how much they want to withdraw, you remember I showed you the type thing. So let's say type of withdraw. So let's run this again. Enter 300. You print the type of withdraw. So let's print the type of withdraw. 45. it's a string, right? This is a string, but we want to use it for calculations and all of that. So what we want to do is we want to say if withdraw is greater than the balance, then what do we want to say? We want to say, yeah, you do not have enough money to have more money to withdraw, and then we'll say something like the amount. So withdraw. Now let's even change this to amount, because AMT amount is fine, because we are typing too much. Yeah, to amount. You don't have enough balance to withdraw. AMT, right? And then else, that means if the amount is not greater than balance, print you have withdrawn AMT, and then we'll print again. Now your new balance is what? So what's the balance? It's that balance that we have there minus the amount they withdraw, right? So let's put this in the bracket just so that you remember that thing. It doesn't confuse anything. So yep. Then we run and we enter 45, and we get an error. It said what? Trace back most recent call. Now when you get an error in Python, this is what happens. It said file control.py, so that's the file we're running. If amount in balance is a type error not supported between instances of str and int. So you see that I said we should print the type of amount, and then when we printed it, we saw that it was a string, right? But balance, we all know, is an integer. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to compare a string to what? An integer, right? So what we need to do is to convert this amount into an integer, right? This is a string, so how do we convert it to an integer? So what we do is that we just say AMT again, and we say int, right, into brackets AMT. So what this means is that this AMT here is a string, right? Now take that string AMT and put it into a function called int. When you put this AMT into a function called int, this function, it is going to convert that string to an integer, right? And then we can use that in balance. So I'm printing the type here and I'm printing the type here. You see that it will change, right? So if I enter 99, right? So we have another error. So we count is the same thing, but the important thing we need to see is that the first AMT printed string, but the second AMT printed what? Integer, right? Good. So this int is a function which takes a string as an input and then converts it to an integer. So the string, when you enter something on the command line, it gives it to you as a string, right? So to convert, if you want to convert it to an integer, then you need to use the int function. However, let me run this again and then show you something. And I say ABC. I said what? Value with base and ABC. It's giving me some error again. Why? At this point, you see line 36, because it's trying to convert the whatever we entered into a string. But what is happening here? What is happening here is that what we entered was it's trying to convert into an integer, but what we entered was ABC. There's no way you can convert something like ABC into an integer because it doesn't make sense, right? So if you are trying to convert something into an integer, then it means that you are telling the user that you're assuming the user will enter what? Only numbers, right? Otherwise it will get an error, right? So we'll do error handling when you get this kind of error, because of course even though you are telling the person to enter a number, you don't know maybe an obedient when who say who can say or enter amount to withdraw, no I go enter abcd or no I go boni. So because of that your program will run, will halt. No, we don't have to face such situations. So what we do is that we do something called error handling, and then we'll do that as time goes on. But for now, we'll just say, oh, look, if you enter how much you want, and if the person doesn't enter a number and they enter a string, just normal text, it goes against them, right? But the important thing is that we convert whatever the person enters into an integer. So if it can't convert into an integer, it will throw an error, right? And when can't it convert into an integer? It can't convert into an integer if the person enters something that cannot be converted into a number, you see. So okay, good. So now we have a lot of examples here. So let's enter 700. Kofi wants to withdraw 700, but we are still getting an error on line 43. What is that error saying? It's saying that you have it's saying you can only concatenate str to str, not int, right? So if you remember, we converted this amt into what? An integer. And now we are trying to add, this is a string, right? We are trying to add a string to an integer. Now, you know, these are the little things that once you get over them, that's all, right? You're trying to add a string to the integer. So it says you can't add a string and an integer, right? So what to do is to convert this integer to a string again. So we do that str, put it into bracket, and that will work for us. We need to do the same thing for this guy too, str. And then when we run our code once more, 900. So let's remove these guys. So since we all now understand what is going on here, let me just comment them out so that you know. So I'll put all of these in our GitHub repository in the link in the course description. You'll see it. So you said, well, the person entered withdraw 900 and your new balance is 2,109, right? So this person has a lot of money in any case. Okay, so we've done that. So we can see that we have the same issue as we did here. So we need to also convert this one to what? str. Good. So so to convert something to an integer, you use the int, and to convert something to a string, you use the str function in the same way. So let's see. What if the person wants to enter 900.999, or the person is a national service personnel, so the person was given 559.9. You know, it's getting an error again, right? Because what we entered is 559.9. It can't convert 559.9 into an integer, because 559.9 itself is a floating number. So to cater for everything, we just say float. You can use a float. Now float number is, even if I enter an integer, it will be correct, because I mean 559.0. If I just enter 559, you'll get our 10, right? Just I will have, it will take it as 0.0. But when it was an int, you know, we were going to get, and you enter a float, you get an error, right? Because float is bigger than int, right? Because all numbers with decimal points are bigger, all the numbers with decimal points, right? If these are all the numbers with decimal points, then inside of all the numbers with decimal points, you find all integers, right? You know about sets, so you know this one too. Some of the maths we learned is good, right? So remember those kind of those things, number set or something that they used to draw. So that's what we are using here, right? And they said we have natural numbers, and inside natural numbers we have integers, and then after that you have what maybe I don't remember, but basically all you need to know is that the floating numbers or numbers with this decimal points cover also integers, right? Because even if you pick any integer, you can convert it to a number with decimal points. But if you pick a number with decimal points, you can't convert into an integer. If I pick 559.9, I can't convert it into an integer without throwing the decimal point part away, right? That's it. So the general thing to do is to say float, right? Float. And so we've written some simple code here which says that, hey, someone called Kofi is going to take money. So we show them a message and say, hey, input, and then we're going to. So the next thing we're going to do is to simulate the mobile money. Yeah, we are going to simulate. I think we should simulate mobile money. Yeah, and then as exercise, you go and simulate ATM machine, and also you go and do this grading system. You can complete it. Grading system. So with all what we've done here, you should be able to do that. So I'll show you some new tricks in the last course. Right. Okay. So see you there.